The Kansas City Chiefs have to fix their edge situation. The draft's the best way to do it, or is it? We're going to get to that today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. This is Locked On Chiefs, your team every day as part of the Locked On Network, where we are free on every single platform you can think of, including YouTube. If you would like and sub and hit the bell over there, that helps us drastically. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out the draft show for your second listen. I got a lot going on over there too, and Crocker's always fun to make fun of me. So you can find me over at Rogue APC. The Matrix is out. Use the code Locked On to get a big discount off of that. And the draft guide is set to come out next week. Putting the finishing touches on the design, and then we're going to start churning out the pages. Be ready for that. I'm Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. You can find it at rogueapc.com. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thank you, sir. I'm Chris Clark. You can find me at Chiefs Corner, which is also listed below if you're on YouTube. Actually, it's funny you're bringing up edges, and we're talking about edges today because I just wrote an article about the edge position and how Kansas City has been getting their edges and what they cost this season. So be sure to go check that out at kcchiefscorner.com.
And that's honestly what prompted me, because I've been knee deep. I finally finished up all of my evaluations of the edges that I feel have a draftable grade on them. And then you timed it with the cap side of it, the financial side of what's going on in the league now. And so it comes down to it. Everybody can want what they want. I get that. You want to score points. But to me, this is priority number one. They have to fix that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think I do at this point. I can't see how they go into the season with just Frank Clark and Mike Dana and Josh Kando. They know a lot more about Mike Dana and Josh Kando right now than we do, just because they've seen them in practice. They've seen them probably around the building over the past couple of months. They know if they've changed their body types or what they've been working on. So they have a little bit more insight, but you still can't go into the season with what they have. And I have been making arguments on Chiefs Corner on my Twitter account that they need to possibly draft maybe even 2 edge rushers.
I like that you bring that up, because there's been a lot of talk about, hey, just sign Melvin Ingram and your problems go away. Well, unfortunately, no, they don't. Because as well as Melvin contributed last year, it wasn't what he'd done in the past in San Diego at the time. It isn't a full-time thing. I think Melvin has to be used a little bit lighter than that. I don't think that a full onslaught of 85% of the snaps is going to work for him. So there is no way around it. You must draft edges, and you must get somebody, I feel, that is as a starting level, so that Melvin can be used situationally. You can save the veterans for the veteran work. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, although I would also argue that Melvin may become somebody that you don't even need if you go out and draft a guy like maybe Ebiketie, who some look is not being ready this year and could be a very good situational pass rusher. That could be somebody that could step in and not necessarily be a starter, but be that edge rusher that you need if you could get somebody even higher than that. Really quick, yeah. I do want to throw this out. Chiefs have about $18,350,000 in cap space, and there are a couple of free agents out there, Trey Flowers being probably the biggest name. Are there any free agents left that you're really interested in, even on just a short-term deal?
And that's what I wanted to get into, because I don't even know who's on the list anymore. The cupboard is so bare that
I can tell you.
Lay them out for me.
Trey Flowers, Jason Pierre-Paul, Jerry Hughes, Jadeveon Clowney, Mario Addison, Kyle Van Noy, Takaris McKinley, Melvin Ingram, Benson Mayowa, Ryan Kerrigan, Justin Houston, Stephen Weatherly, DeMarcus Walker, Kamiko Toure. Then you're just getting
Go back one. No, I'm kidding. Go back to the top. Who's number 2?
Jason Pierre-Paul.
He's the only one that instantly said, okay, wait, he's still got something left to offer me. I don't think Trey Flowers has much left. Melvin is borderline. I think JPP, from what he's shown over the last 2 seasons, he's still got something. Is it what it was when they beat the Chiefs? I don't think so. I think they're standing on the precipice there. And so,
but even a half second off that is more than the Kansas City Chiefs now.
True. And I think when we get later in the show, I think we need to get into the cost of that versus the draft. But it is, I think, got to be a mixed bag. It has to be done in the draft, at least one. But at the end of the day, it's funny that you bring up Ebiketie. Everybody seems to be in Chiefs Kingdom real high on him. We don't have him over at our see like really, really high. I mean, he's graded out in the teens in terms of the edge rushers for me. So he's not a first round selection in any way for me because of what you said. He's at least a year away, maybe 2 from getting there. Now, is he farther along than Josh Kando? Absolutely. But is he ready to walk in and be a starter? No. I'm not even sure that he can be productive as a part-time, like you said, like pass rush only specialist as a rookie. It may take till the end to even get some production out of him.
Well, and see, that's exactly where I was coming from with it. Is I know that there are people that question whether or not he is a viable edge, and I'm not saying take him in the first round. I just threw his name out there because he is one of those guys that people question whether or not he could be a full-time starter day one. And I agree with you. I don't think he can. So at that point, you're looking at getting an edge rusher on top of Ebiketie that can come in and start, because I don't think you want Dana and Clark as your starters.
Agreed. So we need to get into the financial piece of it and then go through who we think is the fits. We're going to do that after this. I want to tell you guys about what I think is the most important place for you to go if you want to take a good way towards putting your money out there on the line. It's BetOnline, where you can get all the information and all the help that you need. That's the big thing for me. It's not just about doing crazy things because you think you got a hunch. It's about getting all the podcasts and all the wagering information and all the esports stuff and everything that you need, whether it's, gaming online, whether it's Vegas games or whether it's ball games at this point. You need all that information to get you in a spot to do the right thing. That's really where it comes down to. And BetOnline has it all. That's the thing. Whether it's the Masters right now, I guess he went and teed off. Old Tiger's back out on there on the course. I don't follow golf that much. I like to, try to attempt to play it, but I don't follow it on television. But that's a big deal today. I don't know. There's probably 1,000 props over there that you can go check out on BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Now, I want to follow up on your piece because that's the other side of it. You can go and add veterans, like you said. There are some names out there that you feel still have a little bit left in the tank. But the cost, even of those guys, especially like when you're talking about guys like Clowney and Ingram that don't want to come to camp and are going to sign late, so you have to kind of hang it out there and wait on them. Like both that risk and the risk of the cost, we're talking about $6-8 million for those guys, whereas a rookie is probably not going to be there anywhere close to what if they were to take their first pick, what's 29 slated at? 2.5 next year?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So, I mean, the cost benefit is not even close in terms of making sure that you do draft an edge that you feel can be a starter for you. That's the bottom line goal for me.
Yeah, 2.5 is exactly where the draft would be. If you take him at 29 or 30 is pretty much the same, 2.4. So I think you're in a situation where if you take a guy like that, obviously that's going to help you going forward. The question is there going to be somebody there at 29 or 30 that is going to be able to step in and start? Because that's really what you need.
That's the thing. I mean, and there's all for the mentoring and that kind of thing, but there's got to be some upside left in whoever you sign, whether it's a veteran, and clearly if it's a draft pick, that's a whole different situation, but you got to combine them. And I think it's the highest priority, like I said earlier, but it's also one that I think the most intriguing thing that you said, no matter what, cap wise, you're not double dipping in the free agent market. At least from my point of view, it's just too expensive. So you can double dip in the draft.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have to. The question becomes kind of like we talked about yesterday, are they going to have to trade up to get somebody that's going to be a starter? And that's the big question. And I will say this. I kind of disagree with you with the cost on Melvin. I don't think it's going to be $8 million a year. I think he'll be lucky to get $4 would be my guess. So that would be cheaper. That would be more doable, but still more than you probably want to do.
Yeah, I'm just talking about what the demand is right now. You know what I mean? Evidently, that's what he's looking for. It will come down as time goes by. You're absolutely right. But still,
if it gets past the draft, there's no way he's getting that.
Yeah. And that's still, 40% more than the 2.5 that the draft pick will be. So it's still a trade-off even at that level. So, okay, so here's the next scenario then. They sign a veteran and then they draft 2 guys at that position, and you completely restock the edge position in particular.
I'd love it. I think that you could do that. The big question is who are you going to draft and how high? Because if you don't get guys, the edge rushers you're going to get generally in the third and fourth rounds are going to be developmental guys that aren't going to
Mm-hmm.
be somebody that can step in and start. So if you're going to completely restock the cupboard, the problem with that is that you're bringing in 2 edge rushers plus a veteran. That's 6 edge rushers basically that would be on your team, and that's probably at least one too many going into the season. So you're gonna have to figure things out there, but you can do that. But you might be kicking off Josh Kando. I don't have a problem with that. You might be kicking off the veteran you sign. Who knows?
You don't know. And I agree with you completely. And we'll run down the list of guys that we can talk about, whether trading up for or whether staying pat for or whether second round is for here when we get back here in a bit. But that volume is the concern, right? So Kando, Dana, Clark is there. You're not going to move on from Clark. They would have done it if they were going to do it. So I don't think that that's a discussion point.
There's
So
not
those
a cost
3,
benefit there for him
exactly.
anymore.
And even if he is outplayed, if you were to sign Melvin and draft a kid that actually blows up and plays better than you think, even in his draft status, you're still not cutting Frank because it only hurts you at this point.
Pretty much.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere.
And
Not
so it
this
becomes the massaging of the numbers of the roster spot. And so, there's a couple different things you can do. You can look for versatility, somebody that can reduce inside on passing downs and help out Chris Jones as the pass rusher next to him. Or you can look at, hey, like you said before, maybe we can just cut whoever doesn't make us feel like they're there to really push us forward. There's a lot of guys in this draft class. We'll talk about those in a minute, but your preference right now, draft first, sign somebody later, sign somebody now, if you can force it, and then draft A or 2 or whatever you decide. Which is the order for you? Does it have to be a vet first?
So I know we're talking about edge, but I'm going to throw out the wide receiver position and corner because I think it all applies to those 2 positions as well. I think that you would rather go into the draft having no real big holes.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that's not probably going to be able to happen. So it's a question of where you're going to be able to find somebody. To me, I don't think that I would sign Melvin right now because it sounds like he's wanting too much money. I would wait. And I think he'll still be there after the draft. I know everybody wants him back, but he played better. The Chiefs defense played better, but he didn't really produce.
Mm-hmm.
That's a key distinction that I think people need to realize.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it all comes down to. It's part of the team, not you being a one-man show and being the catalyst of the team or of the unit in this case on the defensive side. I completely agree with you. And that's what it comes down to. So we got to talk about where to get who in addition to whoever you do sign. So we both feel that that's both coming. So we'll run down the list here. I think that it's very intriguing and it kind of points in one direction for me, but we'll get to that.
And when we get to that, we will be talking about who is going to be hungry to get after the quarterback on this Chiefs team. And thank you, Ryan. I know you have your Built Bars right there to show everybody. Built Bar is a fantastic bar. If you've not tried them yet, please go give them a try. Go to build.com and make an order now. They are well worth it, I promise. Have you tried the puffs? If you've tried Built Bar and you haven't tried the puffs, you need to give them a try as well. Covered in marshmallow, but it is 100% real chocolate as well. Absolutely delicious bars. All bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bar with these. It is a much better option, and it will actually make you feel better as opposed to eating a candy bar. Go to build.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. They are high protein, low calorie, high fiber, and low carb. Most Built bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate, cookies and cream. Lots of different bars you can choose from. I just actually got the peanut butter brownie. That's pretty good as well. And, I've got a whole bunch of different flavors upstairs, including Ryan's favorite. And I'm not even going to tell him
You don't have to. You got the brownie chunk, huh? I got
you. I do. I've got 2 boxes left. Thank you very much. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. So let's jump in here.
Okay.
You're the draft guy. I'll defer to you on all these edges.
Well, it comes down to the fact that it is three guys that are what you feel can step in and make an impact. And I don't mean just become a starter. I mean be an impact, like Micah Parsons last year, like Nick Bosa, etc. There's three guys. There's a second tier that I think is really interesting, but those three guys in Hutchinson, Thibodeau, and Trayvon Walker, they're likely all going to go in the top 10.
It's interesting. Karlaftis is not in your – he's in that second tier for you, huh?
No, he's in the third tier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And folks, all these rankings are going to be available in the draft guide, as well as our new ranking site over on Substack as well. So you'll be able to check all that out in person and get a look at it. But those three, it's arguable that in this draft class, you might be able to convince yourself that trading up to the top 10 is enough of a reason to go get them, because of either elite production, elite athleticism, or a middle combination of both that you feel can step in and play. They're all sizable enough that they can play in Spag's system. And I think that's key for what we're talking about. This team, you're not going to go up for Boye Mafe. You might even get a chance at him in 29. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the good thing is, a lot of years it's the Brian Burns. It's the 235-pound edge rusher that has been at the top of the list, right? Guys that don't necessarily fit what Kansas City wants to do. These guys are all 265 plus. Like, you feel good about the way that they stack up. So I think that it's really intriguing what they all bring. The cost is prohibitive in my mind. I don't think they can trade up into the top 10 for even an edge rusher, because nobody is a super slam dunk. There is no Nick Bosa. Walker's great. I think he may end up being the best of them, but he hasn't done it yet, and he has only shown you flashes on film. Thibodeau has been very good at times. He's also had times where he disappears. So there's an argument to be had that he can't be there too. Hutchinson is clearly, I think, the most steady and the safest pick of the three, but he also has the shortest arms. And there's questions about, is he already at his ceiling? So that's enough of a question on each guy that I can't trade up. So then it comes down to the second tier for me. And that's Jermaine.
Sorry, I just want to say really quick. Interesting thing to me on all three of those guys, they're all 21.
Yeah.
And I want to throw that out because I think that's a big deal if you're going to be trading up for somebody that they're not already 23 or 24.
That's true. And that is a very fair point. The next tier includes Jermaine Johnson, Boye Mafe, Cameron Thomas. It would have included David Ajabo, but the injury drops him down. So those are guys that I think are going to go somewhere in the second half of the first round, or at least grade out as though they should. There's some athleticism questions with some of them. So when we complete the guide, we'll know exactly where they are in terms of the athletic matrix and their film grade and their production grade. It's all going to go in, and we'll have a final grade on them next week. But you can make an argument for and against all of those guys as well. But the two that stand out, you already mentioned Karlaftis. I actually have Cameron Thomas, of a similar build and style, graded above him in terms of production, as well as in terms of his grade on film. So I like Cam Thomas. I'm higher on him than everybody else. I fully admit that. But I think he's a top 50 pick. It doesn't mean you have to get him at 29 or 30. You might be stretching your luck if you wait till 50, but there's a chance there. Karlaftis is likely to go above him because I think a lot of grades have him a little bit higher. I don't. And I am thinking specifically in this situation of Spag's system, which means you have to be stout against the run. You have to be sizable enough to hold up when they try to double team you, and you have to have the edge capability. Do you think that they should stay with the same type, though? Or do you think that they need to get not younger, but smaller, more explosive, more first step quickness around the edge rather than through the tackles?
I think they need to stick with what they have. And I would say that mainly because if you look at the way that this run defense is played, and I know people are going to just shake their heads when I say run defense, but it does come down to that for me in a way, because you're talking, if you're talking about getting smaller, you're also going to give up more against the run, and that's going to cost you against some teams. So I would think that they want to stay more true to what Spags has done and go after some of those younger guys that are 21, 22, as opposed to guys that are in their 23s or 24s.
Yeah, and that's fair. I know the breakout age is a big thing for wide receivers, but it also has an effect on every other position. And we're talking about one of the four pillars of the positional groups within football. I think it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to that.
My other thing really is if you're drafting one of these guys in the first round, you're going to have them for 5 years. If he is 23 when you draft him, he'll be 28 when his contract's up. Are you going to want to give him another contract?
Right. That's going to be the problem. If he plays as well as you hope, you're not going to be able to afford to.
Right. And if you get him at 21 and he plays very well up until 26, you're absolutely going to want to sign him to a long-term deal. That 2 years is a big deal. Regardless of position, it is a huge deal. Outside of QB, it affects everybody else in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying there's not one-offs. Absolutely there is. But generally speaking, you get to where you're close to 30, good luck.
Yeah. Beyond that, and age independent, if you want to if they do want to change up the style, I think they have more options. So they can get down there. The 3-4 type guys go everywhere from probably Ajabo can fit there as well. Obviously, you're getting a delay there. YJ Sanders, I think, is probably best there, even though he wins inside as well. Nick Bonito, D'Angelo Malone, Ebiketie. I think Drake Jackson needs to be in a stand-up role, probably more like a 3-4 guy as well. But they offer a little bit more, though, the weave.
If you're going to draft David Ajabo, you have to get a second one. You cannot go with just one. Absolutely. He is not going to be able to play at least significantly this year. So you're going to have to get a second guy.
Yeah. And that comes back to the 29-30 that we've seen mocked, and maybe we'll do that for our mock coming up, folks. But that's where we leave off today. Let us know, who do you want to see them take? Leave us in the YouTube comments over on the reviews on Spotify and iTunes. We would appreciate that. We have a lot going on. We'll have the mock for you on Monday. Don't miss that. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Thank you for being with us. We'll talk to you next time.